Has this ever happened to you? You're making a character, someone really cool from concept to detail, with a complex backstory, where you understand they have an iconic appearance. Every single stat that they have, every attribute, every skill, you know why it's there. It is incorporated into who they are as a person. You can describe in detail why they have the advantages and disadvantages and personality traits that they do. And then you arrive at the final step of the character creation process, which tends to be worrying that you will buy enough matchsticks with your starting capital so as to not be unable to light your fucking candles. Some complex tables of weapons and armor are joined by lists upon lists full of junk and knickknacks, the most of which aren't even explained. And you really have to pay attention here and look it all over in detail, because if you assume that the lighter comes with lighter fluid, you are dead wrong, my brethren. Why do we have this? Why is this a thing in so many pen and paper role-playing games? I mean, I can tell you why. Obviously, it's because of the deep DNA of just heavy survival elements that were always in this kind of story, based upon the fact that the Fellowship of the Ring had to travel, and so this is where the schema of that still is pervasive in a lot of quest lines today, of be in one place, travel through wilderness, be in other place, do thing, return to original place. That's where that comes from. But I am here today to tell you that inventory and inventory management is not only unrealistic, but it also does not add anything to your gaming experience. In fact, probably it detracts from the gaming experience. So you know how most of the players at your table are not in fact master fencers, but somehow they are still allowed to play a legendary duelist, the likes of which not even Cyrano de Bergerac has ever had the opportunity to battle. Or also, how very few players that you will ever play with in your entire gaming career actually have the ability to materialize fireballs out of thin air. Being professional adventurers most of the time, who do professional adventuring for a living, the characters that the players around your table play do in fact know, even if they are not rangers, how to get from point A to point B over the course of X days through Y terrain. And if you have a ranger with you, they can prepare extra well because they have extra expertise in this particular subject matter and extra deal with super complicated situations that might arise along the way. This is character knowledge that your players probably do not have, and thus putting the responsibility of making these preparations onto the shoulders of the players is kind of dumb. This is a place for skill checks, for putting players into interesting circumstances where they have to deal with interesting kinds of adversity. Just having the party starve or freeze to death in the night isn't interesting. Imagine the following, right? Your party of heroes is hiking through forest, right? It's not too deep in the wilderness, but kind of deep in the wilderness. And there's just a vagrant, maybe a hermit, some guy sitting by the wayside, laying by the wayside, really delirious, emaciated. He's probably not going to make it, but he can probably also be saved. However, in order for this fellow to make it, the party will have to make camp nearby and share some of their supplies with this person. And if they do that, they won't have enough supplies to comfortably make the rest of the journey themselves. It might turn out that this guy is a wanted criminal. Maybe he's a forest god. Maybe he's a local guide who can guide them around some dangerous thing that they didn't know about and would have run into if they hadn't saved him. Maybe it's the party's new best friend or worst nemesis. Who knows? What I do know is that if you have made the resource aspect management a thing that is numbers on an inventory sheet, 90% of the time you will have just taken all of the drama and the interestingness out of the situation. In scenario A, the party just is loaded with canned beef Wellington and primo healing potions, so the guy's on his feet like this and can walk off to wherever. And it wasn't a decision at all because there was no risk attached to making that choice. There was no cost. In scenario B, they definitely can't help the guy because they didn't even pack enough lunches in their own school box, and they can precisely do the calculations of, oh, if we go this and there and then and that, and that's not possible, so we're just gonna let him die. And that is a problem because it is the core main issue of what is wrong with inventory management. The one thing that will happen the most if you do things like this, which it turns out most people do, is that you will have, as a player, a situation unfolding before you, and you will have an idea of how to deal with that situation, and you will look at your inventory sheet and find that this idea cannot actually be used, even though it was a very cool idea, because you only brought 2 AA batteries as spares for your flashlight instead of 3. Can't cross the raging river because you only have 8 feet of rope and it's 10 feet wide. And now it's a dumb obstacle that adds nothing. The only thing that inventory management to this level of detail does is that your character will not be able to do things it should by all means be able to do for stupid reasons. You cannot progress not because it's dramatically appropriate or tension building, but because you forgot to buy milk. I mean, obviously this is something that does happen in real life, and every time it happens, it's annoying. It doesn't add anything to my day, it doesn't make me a better person, it is just annoying. And the thing is, you can simulate these kinds of scenarios in a way that does actually add drama and interesting decision making. And at the same time, you can spare your players the tedium of having to keep track of how many linen wraps they have to make torches in some situation by simply making these things skill checks. And not then going, oh, it turns out your character magically became bad for like an extended major decision at something that they've been good at their entire life, but no. Then it's just, oh yeah, well this is a circumstance that is so unforeseen that of course you didn't quite think about it. In which case you can still give your players the opportunity to MacGyver up some creative solution. Where granted, of course, having such an inventory sheet can give you a little spark of inspiration to come up with such a solution. But if that is the case, maybe you should be playing Crazy Machines. Which, you know, in principle, there's nothing even wrong with doing this kind of thing if that is the kind of game that you want to be playing. If you want to do Fantasy Oregon Trail, do it. And most of the time, the people who do play these kinds of games will have some skill at survival or engineering in real life. They will have knowledge that they can apply to this kind of situation because this is the kind of game that matches up with their interests. But it is a special kind of game, and the mechanics it encompasses shouldn't be inside of the standard loadout for all games. You put those mechanics in because you want to have them. As a matter of fact, GURPS has a very interesting supplement that has mechanics on how to calculate your daily calorie expenditure and energy levels, based on what you did and what you ate and your body weight and some genetic factors. It's really quite good. But this kind of stuff doesn't have a place in the overwhelming majority of modern campaigns, and the only reason that it's still in there and that we still do it is because we have always done it. And the inventory packages that many books do offer are nice and convenient, but they are barely a band-aid on a wound on a limb that should have been amputated long ago. Because it doesn't just stop you from doing things, it'll also, for some unbeknown reason, transform entire play sessions into just shopping tours in town, because for some reason a lot of GMs and a lot of players feel obligated to play that stuff out into the most minute detail instead of engaging in the kind of roleplay that, you know, is actually dramatically relevant. Is going to the supermarket to buy oatmeal and frozen pizza truly the most interesting part of your day, would you say? Don't get me wrong, I don't want to get rid of items altogether. I find they're a pretty important part of play. But I'm talking cool items. I'm talking items that you actually want to use. Items that are iconic to your character. Weapons and armor, yeah, sure, but also your cyber deck and your flying broomstick. Your magic items, your powerful artifacts. Those definitely, because they are actually interesting and cool. The floating spheres of glowing in the dark. the laser hoverboard of flying like a bloody hawk, the record player that is foldable and plays Eurobeat. These are interesting items that do strange and fascinating things and can be used in strange and fascinating ways in novel situations. They're magical, they're special, they're exciting. How many rolls of toilet paper you have in your backpack is not interesting. It's just filler. Nothing happens if you do, and things that just are not funny to you if you are not a child happen if you don't. And that's why inventory bad. Thank you for watching this angry rant that was just much more emotionally delivered than the actually importance of the subject matter justifies. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, share this to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. Consider supporting me on Subscribestar or Patreon, potentially buying some of my merchandise. I really should revamp the merch store though. Or buying the short story collection, where there are no shopping tours, I think. And in that spirit, seriously consider just getting rid of all the item clutter, because it's boring. Unless it's the exact kind of reason why you play the games that you play, in which case, more power to you. And see you around, cunts.